All right, ladies and gentlemen, is it time to leave the United States? Let's find out.
Is that even a realistic solution to escape the cost of living crisis that we're in America right now? Yes. Yes, it is. If you're in the position that you think you can go, especially if you don't have a spouse or children that you have to worry about, is it time to spread your wings and follow that dream? In 2025, I think so. Because the question is, why not? The question is, what holds you back? Is it people? Is it your job? A lot of people haven't been able to save up much money, but are you going to be able to save up much money in the future? Is this your only opportunity that you might have to go? I think that this is actually a good time to leave the United States. It's a good window right now to do so as far as our economy goes and the strength in the US dollar. Yes, the dollar is weakening, but so are other global currencies. So be able to leverage the US dollar or the pound.
All right, so something I want to add right there. I hit the wrong pause button there for a second, but something I want to add to what he's saying is that basically there's going to be a lot of people that are trapped in the United States simply because they can't afford to get out, right? Um, he's talking about people saving up money and stuff like that, but the problem is most people there's going to be massive hordes of people trapped in the United States because they can't afford to get out. So that's one of the things that I'm concerned about. If things go south here in the United States, I don't know. Let's continue listening and see if we can't come up with some ideas together, right?
Or the euro in other parts of the world. So as far as financially goes, if you can get an income of even $2,000, $3,000.
My problem with urination finally stopped, and what I did was ridiculous. All I needed was one tomato cut in half and two powerful ingredients for reducing
And
Oh,
move
righty then.
abroad to work, you can live a very good life. And I know this because this is something that I've been doing for years now. I've been back in the States for a few months now and experiencing what life is like here compared to the rest of the world while being able to leverage the US dollar. I can say that it is a great life to live, not only for the financial reasons, but for the fact that outside the United States, life is simply better. There's a kind of chaos and turmoil in the United States in our.
And I got to stop it there because he's on to something. There is a lot of chaos and turmoil. Uh, I almost turned into George Bush Sr. there for a second. Or, no, sorry, it would have been George Bush. Would be George Bush Jr. When he used to say terrorists, it sounded like he was saying tourists. And I almost said turmoil. But anyway, yeah, there is a lot of chaos in the United States right now. And I hear that from people that I know right now that are traveling abroad, some of whom I cannot mention. It's classified. But there are people that I've seen, people that I've spoke to, people I've seen on YouTube, people I've spoke to personally, people I know personally that do YouTube videos about traveling and going to different countries and whatnot. And this guy right here, I've watched a lot of his videos, and him and I think almost exactly alike. I can tell by the things that he says. There's a lot of turmoil in the United States right now, guys. A lot between the political division and the division between men and women, and just on and on and on, right? And I'm hearing more and more people say that there can be a lot of peace. That there is a lot of peace to be had living abroad and prosperity. Now, a lot of Americans think that prosperity, when you say that there's prosperity living abroad, a lot of Americans think, oh, you mean material wealth, right? No, not necessarily. Prosperity meaning uh, not only having peace in your life, but having true, genuine connections with friends and family and whatnot. So let's continue to listen. There's more. I'm gonna add more to that. So
Everyday lives that you don't have to deal with anymore. That kind of downward pressure on your shoulders releases when you get on that plane and land in another country. The stress that you carry in that situation is simply the stress that you choose to carry. And the economies in other cultures are much more forgiving than they are in the States. A lot of people will say that living abroad is
yes,
becoming more expensive, and yes, that is true. Life is becoming expensive everywhere. And I would argue that, and I will say that living a life of relative financial safety in another country is far better than living a life in financial fear in the United States. Will the quality of life be as good depending on where you're at? Yes or no. Is the infrastructure as good in other countries as it is here? Yes and no. It depends where you go.
yeah, and I know I mentioned this in a previous video I did recently. I know a lot of people of all ages that are going through immense amounts of anxiety right now because they are it's financial, guys. I mean, they're worried about money, and I think one of the latest stats that I heard from Dave Hodges from the Common Sense Show is that there was, I think it was approximately 65 million Americans. Now, this is a little while back, so it may be even more now. 65 million Americans approximately living paycheck to paycheck, meaning they don't have any savings, they don't have anything to fall back on, they're living paycheck to paycheck. And if something happens and they lose their job, they get fired, laid off, sick for some reason, right? In a car accident, can't work for a bit. Uh, they're going to be dead in the water. They're like one paycheck away from homelessness.
Anyone who's been consuming
That's
my
not good
content for
enough
a
for
while
America.
knows that I love Eastern Europe, and especially Greece. And while people from Greece will often argue with me that Greece is falling apart and their infrastructure is terrible, I can say that in comparison to America, it's not as bad as you think. I go to work up in Cleveland, and if we look at their metro system, I mean, it's dangerous, it's dirty, it's filled with homeless people. I juxtapose that, and I know that Turkey's a place in turmoil right now, and we do worry for our family that lives in Turkey. Even when we're talking about the infrastructure of urban transportation, even a place like Istanbul beats out most American major cities. The metro system in Istanbul is amazing. These long trains that you can see all the way to the end, it's kind of trippy. You sit on each side facing each other, and it's roomy, it's spacey, it's clean, it's fast, it's smooth. And then I take that and I compare that to the DC Metro, which is dirty and grimy and filled with criminals and always crowded and stuffy and anxious. And it's just not something you want to deal with on a daily basis. Even the Metro in Athens is better. If you go to a place like Bangkok, the rail system they have there is fantastic. Everyone uses it, It's clean, it's safe. And that's the thing we keep going back to, clean and safe. America is becoming a dirty country. And it's becoming a dirty country because people in America don't care anymore. And why would you? It's easy to take care of your own space, but in a general and kind of grand mood of national apathy.
Yeah, he's making some good points. So there are areas of the United States, big cities, that are very dirty.
People don't care about things anymore. American infrastructure, American houses, architecture, it's all kind of being left to ruin as the people just kind of give up and don't care anymore. That kind of general apathy that you feel in America.
I got a Mazzato knife, and what followed was an absolute fiasco. So I almost made.
It feels particularly American.
Yeah, so what he's talking about, guys, is that there is a general apathy in America, but I think it's kind of concentrated in, I think it's kind of concentrated in the big cities. So, sorry if I look like I'm leaning over here once in a while, I'm leaning on the arm of my chair. But yeah, it's concentrated, I think, more in the cities, though.
Or Western at this point. And when you go to these other places, they don't have that. People care. People care about what's around them. people care about their lives. People care about their neighborhoods. People care about their neighbors. It's a good feeling to be in a place where people cared. And Americans don't really realize it because they're just in it all the time. But the constant negativity that this country holds, you turn on the TV, it's negativity, negativity, negativity. You turn on the movies and shows, it's negativity and negativity. There's no true core positive feeling in America anymore, unless you cut away from everything and just go into the woods. In order to escape negativity and apathy in America, you have to leave America. So is it a good time to live abroad?
I've often thought about that, about just escaping and living in the woods somewhere, right? In a nice cabin or something somewhere.
Yes. It's a good time to live abroad. You have every opportunity to do so. Are there jobs out there you can do? Yes, of course there are. Well, in the past, a lot of people leaned on software jobs, to live abroad, to be that digital nomad. Those times are kind of coming to an end for a lot of people as the availability of coding jobs and jobs in that industry are waning and becoming quite scarce. But of course, for the entrepreneur, which is not something that everyone can do, it's still a thing. Even working for the government, for a place like USA Jobs, maybe getting a job on base somewhere, or even just applying for a work visa and working like a local in some of these countries. Not some of these more impoverished countries, no, that's not realistic. But the money that you need to live in some of those places the bar is quite low. So if you can make any kind of income on a US dollar, I mean, you can live very, very well. And that's not going away anytime soon. For some reason, people think that living abroad is just not practical anymore because the world's getting more expensive. Like I said, the US dollar, yes, it's going down in value, but so is the value of pretty much every currency out there. If you have an income in
So basically, what he's trying to get at there is that, so because the US dollar is the dominant currency for the most part, right? There are currencies that are at times worth more in their country. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But because the US dollar is used as a world reserve currency, even though the dollar is losing value, the other currencies underneath it are losing value as well. So here's the US dollar, here's other currencies. They're down here below the US dollar, and people think, oh, well, the US dollar's going down. Yeah, but so are these other currencies. So everything's going down together, right? Because the US dollar is still largely used as a world reserve currency. So a lot of debt is based in the US dollar, right? International debt and domestic debt and so on. So all of that debt would have to be repaid in US dollars. There's more to it, but I think you guys get the gist of it.
US dollars, your living margins are much higher in another country. When you're in America and you're using US dollar, your margins of expenditures are much lower, right? You have
Guys, this is my first time watching this video. I saw the title and I thought it would be cool to do this video. And I swear the thing I'm doing, I told you this guy and I think a lot alike. This whole thing, like, I didn't even know he was going to do that. I mean, I think this guy and I are like brothers from another mother. So I swear to God, I hear this guy talk in his videos and he uses the same words that I use in my thoughts. So I'm telling you, man, we're twins somehow, somewhere. Connected. We're connected.
to stay within here. When you're abroad, it's like this. You're fine. You feel safe. You don't even worry about it. Of course, like I said, that's not every country, but a lot of people go into Eastern Europe right now. A lot of people go into South America right now. A lot of people moving to Africa. Southeast Asia is always there.
Southeast
So why
Asia
not
is
do it now?
very popular.
What is holding you back? I think that we need to take an inventory in our wants, right? Because for most people, your wants are not going to be fulfilled in America anymore unless you're making a considerable amount of money. I'm someone who makes a decent living, if we're being very transparent.
Yeah, and a lot of people are starting to say, "Hey, America's for the rich," and it really is. Any more to enjoy life in America, to enjoy what this society has to offer, uh, you have to be rich. And when I say rich, I'm not talking about um, 300,000 a year. No, that's actually at this point with inflation and cost of living, that'd be still be considered just getting by basically. I'm talking about rich, like, you know, millions and millions and millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions, and so on. Um, America's for the rich, the ultra rich.
But at the same time, I can tell you that living on a much lower wage while being in another country, life is better. I felt so much better. We felt so much freer. We were still able to save quite a bit and not have to worry about everything. We had a kind of freedom that we don't have here because we always have to be on our game here. In America, I've had to monetize every part of my life in order for us to grow here. And that's not something I've had to do while living abroad.
And that's what I was saying in another one of my videos, guys. We live in a society where now everybody has to have a side hustle or multiple side hustles, multiple jobs, right? It's no longer good enough just to have one job that is your primary income. It's no longer good enough just to have it. It's crazy. When you start seeing those things happen, and like he said, you have to monetize every aspect of your life just to get by. You're not getting rich. You're just getting by.
Because I don't like the hustle
Think
culture.
about that.
And you know what? Most
Nope.
people, if they're being honest,
Hustle
they don't
culture's
like
no
it
good.
either. And that's why it's hard once you go live abroad to come back.
Who's coming
Yeah,
in the
it is.
doorway?
This is a sad video, guys. That's sad.
One of the biggest mistakes I've ever made in my life is
It's
coming
about a little girl that has cancer. I've seen it before, but anyway, let's continue.
back to America. And I can't wait to leave. And it's going to be great. And the day I
See?
step foot back in Greece, I'm probably never going to leave again. Or at least not come back to the States. If Greece Travel Ministry or whatever, they want to use me as propaganda, hey, I'm all about it. You pay me, I'll come work for you guys. It sounds great. Travel to Greece.
Right on, brother. Right on.
But no,
Right on,
it's
man.
completely doable. Make your plans and just go. In 2025 and 2026 and beyond, living abroad is still a completely reasonable thing to do. And I would argue it's more reasonable than staying here as things continue to get worse. So yes,
Yes.
start to make your plans, start to
100%.
get everything together and just get ready to live your life. And I promise you, as always, by making that positive change, by getting out there and actually chasing the kind of life that you want, it isn't an act of selfishness. It's an act of following your purpose, because your purpose is to live a good life. And no one should be able to hold you back from that, not whether it's the government or it's people in your family or people who you consider friends who want you to be stuck and suffer with them. Don't be
And a lot of it, guys, if you like I said in a previous video I did as well, if you look at every aspect of your life in America, your life is being lived. It's always something to do with everything you're doing has something to do with somehow serving corporations, serving government, serving bankers. So he's onto something there.
the last one in a burning boat. Get to a life raft, right? And that life raft may not be here. It might be in another country, and you can't be afraid to go after it. Go travel. Go to Mexico. It's right there. Because, yeah, from America, tickets to like Thailand or the Philippines can be cost prohibitive. But listen, when you plan these things, look 3-4 months ahead when you're looking to buy your tickets. Look at long stay visas. Don't just think about, I'm going to go there for 30 days and see how it is. If you can afford to go to a place for like a year or so, if you have any kind of retirement income, Social Security, VA disability, any of these things, look at long-term visas, because when you get a long-term visa in many countries, that opens up the opportunity for you to actually rent homes that are a fraction of the price as you would be getting something on Airbnb. Airbnb is criminal. It's so expensive. And like, if you're trying to live abroad, you just don't stay at an Airbnb. You want to stay there for a couple days, yes, but get a long stay visa and actually rent a place out. Most places you can do it for just 1 year. That's fine. That's all you need. But it's definitely within the realm of possibility if you just do it. If you have any questions of things that you want to look into when it comes to living abroad, when it comes to maybe escaping America or escaping the West, any fears or horror stories that have kind of pushed you away from chasing that dream,
Escape the corporate prison of America. I mean, that's what it is, guys. the wage slavery, the starvation wages, the government up in every aspect of your life, including how you are going to raise your kids, what you can and can't do with your kids. You could make a laundry list from the ceiling to the floor in small fine print as to all of the different ways that our lives are being interfered with in the West by corporations, government, and bankers. And it's getting to the point to where we're going to reach the point of no return. We're going to reach the tipping point to where people are going to say, enough is enough. We're done.
Let us know in the comments section. And as always, thank you for all the support. Thank you for stopping by. Like and subscribe. And I hope you guys have a good one.
So, yeah, there you go. Man, there's a lot that could be said to that. So, all right. So just to wrap it up here, guys, there's a lot. I could make an entire video off of what he just said. I could do a hour-long debate off of the things that he just said, easily. But it's important to start considering these things because these things are seriously affecting our lives as Americans and anyone in the West. I'm going to leave the link below to his video. As always, I would highly recommend going and checking out his channel. I think his channel is called It's called Large Man Abroad. He does a lot of really good videos. And he's a fairly new channel too, I think. He's really good. But a lot of very insightful stuff on his channel. And like I said, every time I watch one of his videos, I'm like, wow, this guy is saying the very things that are always on my mind, right? Even the same words that I think come out of his mouth in his videos. And it's like, dude, this guy, I'm telling you, we're twins. Brothers from another mother. So go check out his channel, guys. All right, have a good night and or a good day, depending on when you're watching this. And we'll see you soon.